Welcome to episode 2 of the Upgrade podcast. Today, we are talking about how to perfect your morning routine. There's a real power to having that good morning, good start to your day, that good morning routine. The special thing about morning routines is that they work so well that people try and copy other people's routines. It's quite a common thing, especially on social media at the moment. But what I'm trying to teach you today is how to customize a morning routine perfect for you. What I want to be able to do is have all the benefits that you get from a good morning routine, but it's customized to your morning. So you can stick to this morning routine long term. And the power of the morning really starts off with it setting the momentum for the day. A productive morning gives you a productive day. But the problem is that people try and go too far-fetched with the morning routine. You're planning yourself to wake up productive, wake up feeling motivated like you are while making it. So you wake up in that morning and you feel crap like you have for the last week, and that's why you haven't been able to do anything special and you're stuck in bed till 9 a.m. So we've got to change that thinking into what can I do on my worst days, so you're able to stick to it on your worst feelings. If you wake up feeling better, then you can go to the more extreme side, but there's no point having your base at 100% when you wake up at 10%. So how can we set up your mornings to maximize your health, make you feel good, and make you have high energy and productivity for the rest of the day? Because this is our goal for this episode. If mornings are so important, our first question becomes, what time do we wake up? Now, this is the problem where you see some influencers wake up at 4 a.m., 5 a.m. You do that and it just feels impossible to sustain over a long period of time. That biologically works for them, and it may not biologically work with you. There are still some celebrities, some high achievers in the world that wake up at 7 a.m. They wake up at 9, 10 a.m., even later in the day because of their chronotype. If you want to know your chronotype, there's a lot that you can do online. There's a lot of quizzes. And it kind of goes from 5 different areas. You can be an extreme morning neutral, I think it's like middle, which most people are in, and then it goes evening and extreme evening types. This can range from people waking up at 4, 5 a.m. to people going to sleep at 2 a.m. This is a biological thing. It's not something you can train. It's something that you're born with. It even happens with the little things with melatonin, where you generate melatonin a bit quicker when you see darkness, which tells your body it's time to go to sleep. Doesn't make you feel sleepy. That's not melatonin. That is a rise in adenosine. Stop copying influences and live by your chronotype, your biology. That's where we need to start off by. Say you're someone that wakes up at 7 a.m. That suits your chronotype. Now we need to work out how long you want to sleep. Now it's a little bit different from everyone individually, but bare minimum has to be 7 hours. I would even say 7.5, and maybe even be in bed for 8, because you don't sleep the entire time, and sometimes it's a bit harder to get to sleep some days. So I would say at least stay 7.5, 8 hours in bed. Try and sleep in the range of 7 to 9 hours. Sleeping 9 hours, if that suits you, that makes you feel better, doesn't make you lose any time. The amount you're gaining biologically will help you live longer in your overall health and energy, and how you feel during the day and how productive and energized you are. A minimum of 7 hours does not mean 6. Just as important as quantity is also consistency. Just because you do one doesn't mean you can neglect the other, because both is as important as each other. That means Monday to Sunday, not Monday to Friday and sleeping on the weekends, because you can't catch up that sleep. But make sure you wake up at the same time all 7 days of the week. Also important, going to sleep at the same time, but more important, waking up at the same time. And I know you can't do the exact minute, but being plus minus 15 minutes every single night of your set bedtime is so critical for your circadian rhythm, which we'll go further into in a bit. Your body loves consistency. So if we can get this bedtime right of when to wake up, and make sure you have that 7 to 9 hours of sleep and consistent 7 days a week. So what is your circadian rhythm? It is your body's 24-hour internal clock. This is everything biologically. We can get really deep with this, but on the base level, it controls your sleep, it controls your energy, it controls your hormones, recovery, immune system, and body temperature. Why does this matter? It's because this is involved in everything I'm recommending to do later, to do with sunlight, temperature, caffeine, and so on. So how do we tell our circadian rhythm that the day has started? Well, this starts off when we have a rise in increased temperature just before we wake up, which causes a rise in cortisol upon waking. It's important to know that cortisol isn't the enemy. Cortisol has a really bad reputation in some moments during the day. At night, it is bad to have a high level of cortisol. It's so important in the morning that we get our peak of cortisol as early in the morning as we can to close to waking. So you want the cortisol, you want it high in the morning and low at night. A lot of our society has low cortisol mornings and high cortisol at night. Well, why is this? Well, before we get into that, let's talk about how to actually trigger a cortisol spike in the morning. This is done with bright light, like very bright light. Not when you wake up in the morning and you turn on your lights at max and your phone screen and it's like hurting your eyes, it's so bright. That isn't even bright enough. You need to do this within 30 to 60 minutes of waking minimum, but as soon from waking as possible. You want to get this bright light as close to waking as you possibly can. So we're viewing bright light as soon as we can after waking, ideally from the sun, early in your morning. You don't want to view the sun later in the day for the first time because that causes your peak in cortisol later in the day. So you have a set of nerve cells in your eyes. Those neurons respond best to bright light, especially right after waking early in the day. They best respond to a set of nerve cells just above your mouth called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, which is a cluster of neurons that send out a huge wave of other signals, electrical and chemical, throughout the whole body. That triggers the cortisol increase. It also provides a wake-up signal for your brain and body to set a timer for you to be ready to go to sleep later that day. And like I said, even if you turn your phone brightness up to the max, it still is not enough to trigger a cortisol spike for you to be at your most focused and energized throughout the day. You want to get outside within 30 to 60 minutes of waking. Even better is if you can get your sunlight within 1 hour of the sunrise, which we call the sun at a low solar angle. You know this is a good time because you can look in the direction of the sun, not directly, you don't want to damage your eyes where it hurts. But if you can look in the direction without it hurting your eyes, even if it is a little bit higher where obviously you don't want to look directly into it regardless. You just want to make sure your face is in the direction of the sun so the photons can get into your eyes. How much sun do we actually need depending on what the weather is outside? Because sometimes there's cloudy days, and that's actually the most important time to get the sunlight, but we'll get into that. On a clear day, we want to be looking at getting 5 to 10 minutes. I'd say 10 minutes to be safe of sunlight. On a cloudy day, the wavelengths do still come through the clouds. Just because you can't see the sun doesn't mean that there isn't any sunlight coming towards you. Especially very important infrared light. You can look into that if you want. I will do an episode on it sometime. But the infrared light is so, the wavelengths are so long on infrared light that it easily gets through to you. But on cloudy days, we want to be looking at around 15, maybe 20 minutes, depending how dense the clouds are, to be outside getting your sunlight. On very dense, cloudy days, rainy days, make sure you get at least 20 to 30 minutes of sunlight. Even though it doesn't seem like much point to get the sunlight because it's still not bright outside on those cloudy days, it is still so important because of how dark your room or whatever the inside is. You can still on cloudy days get 6,000 lux, where inside you can get a max of 3 to 500 lux. The benefits you get from all the wavelengths from the sun is so important, as our overhead lights is just very narrow blue light we can get. Personally, for me, I tend to wake up before the sun, which isn't hard because the sun rises at 7:30 here. But what I do is I have my key light, and it has a sunlight setting where I can get it to about 20,000 lux. So I'll do my work here and have that going into my direction so I can get into my eyes. That helps peak the cortisol spike, but I actually still go outside to get my morning sunlight because of all the different types of wavelengths you can get. Even if you wake up at 4 a.m. and it's 2 hours until you can go outside to get sunlight, get as much artificial light as you can, especially turn on your overhead lights if you can because your eyes view the lights from above, but still make sure you get outside to get your sunlight because of the benefits you can get from all the different wavelengths that you don't get from this artificial lights. An important thing is don't wear sunglasses in the morning, especially when the sun's low. It doesn't affect your eyes. Sunglasses are blocking the wavelengths getting into your eyes where you're getting the photons. Eyeglasses, contacts are fine. They're actually useful because they direct it into your eyes, the sunlight. But sunglasses is just a no-go, especially if you're just getting your morning sunlight. Out of all the things that we're going to be talking about later and through this episode, the most important hack is the sunlight. It gives you better wakefulness, better focus, better energy, better sleep onset, and better sleep quality. Just so many more benefits. If you could only do one thing, make sure you get your morning sunlight at least. Another problem is, even though the bright lights, the blue light, the screen from your phone or TV or whatever is not bright enough to release that cortisol spike and do enough for your morning, at night it's the complete opposite. Even just your phone at night is bright enough to disrupt your sleep. Even the tiniest amount of artificial light can completely mess up your circadian rhythm. If you just want to live your life, obviously don't be too strict on it, but at least have your phone brightness down, turn off your overhead lights at least, and if you have candles instead of bedside lamps, use them, because the candles only produce around 1 lux or less. Where our bodies at nighttime, once the sun goes down, the brightest light is 1 lux from the moon, and it's not even. Where with your phones or overhead lights, they produce 300, 500 lux, 300, 500 times more light than you're meant to be getting. Where in the morning, when we're meant to be getting 10,000, 20,000 lux from the sun, 300, 500 lux isn't even a fraction to enough light. When you're waking up 2 hours before you wake up, your body temperature starts to increase. This increasing helps you wake up and helps release some cortisol in the morning. But it's also important to increase your body temperature a bit faster than it naturally does. We can do this in 2 different ways. The first way we can do this is exercise. You want to do this immediately when you wake up. It doesn't have to be a full-blown workout. It can just be a walk while you get your morning sunlight. It can be a light jog. It can be skipping rope. But try to get your body temperature increased in the morning. The second way is to get cold water exposure. If that's doing a 1 to 3 minute cold shower or ice bath or cold plunge, it will also help wake you up, release adrenaline, and it will serve to increase your core body temperature. And how is this done? Because when you get into the cold shower, you're cold, you're freezing it, you're making yourself colder. But if you put something cold on the surface of your body, your brain will realize that external parts of your body is cold, and it tells your body that it needs to heat itself up. So it heats up your core body temperature. And with the opposite effect happens with cold showers. That's why a lot of people, like I do, have a hot shower 60 to 90 minutes before you go to sleep. Because in order to help you fall asleep, you need to drop 1 to 3 Fahrenheit. Because you drop your core body temperature, which helps you fall asleep at night. Now, a big talking point in the morning is caffeine. And I understand a lot of people want to take caffeine as soon as they wake up. I'm no person to say you can't if you really want to. It's your choice at the end of the day, but I will just tell you the benefits if you just wait 90 to 120 minutes in the morning. What it does is it gives you a much longer arc of energy throughout the day, which doesn't give you the need to want to have more caffeine throughout the day. Through even the first 30, 60 minutes after waking, your body still needs to clear some adenosine. And what caffeine does is caffeine's an adenosine blocker, which means that if you take caffeine straight away, it blocks that adenosine from getting into the receptors. Instead of being cleared out, it stays there throughout the day. So when that caffeine wears out, then adenosine is still there to be ready to attach on. So if you just wait that 90 to 120 minutes, you have an extra 2 hours in the bank. Plus, you don't have that extra adenosine left over from the night before. I know a lot of people don't like that, and you definitely don't have to. But if you want to have less coffees throughout the day and have a higher sustain of energy, just wait the 90 to 120 minutes. It saves you time, saves you money as well. For the people that want to have caffeine later in the day, I know this isn't part of the morning routine, but while I'm on caffeine, try to limit the amount or at least have decaf. For the people that do, there are countless studies and more coming that say that people that have caffeine past 4 p.m., even people just before bed, double espresso, whatever, and they say they sleep perfectly fine, they actually don't. It affects your architecture of your sleep, and your sleep quality is not very good. Even if you fall asleep and stay asleep fine, your sleep quality is horrendous. So a rule that I follow, because every now and then I have some caffeine, especially if I'm feeling a bit tired in the day, is I wait 90 to 120 minutes. And a general guideline you should follow is, say you go to sleep at 10 p.m. You don't want to have caffeine within 8 to 10, maybe 12 hours, depending how quick you metabolize it, before your sleep. Earliest 8 hours within sleep though, no sooner. Another couple bonuses that you should do waking is have 500 milliliters of water at least straight after waking. You can add a bit of salt if you want as well. But sleep is an extremely dehydrating effect, especially if you have caffeine straight after you go to sleep. Caffeine is a dehydrator. So you've got no water inside you. You're so dehydrated. Make sure you at least have some water, 500 milliliters of water before you have your caffeine if you're still going to have it early in the day. But regardless, have water in the morning. And you should try to not go on your phone in the morning. As we've said so many times, I know a couple people that have the rule that they're not allowed to go on their phone in the morning if they're sitting down or lying down. If they're going to use their phone, they have to be standing up. You could just put your phone in a different room. I've heard people say on podcasts before that it will increase your life by 20% if you just don't sleep with your phone in your room. But if you do, don't stay on it in the morning. So stand up immediately, drink some water, don't scroll, make sure you get your sunlight if you have it. If not, turn on artificial lights, bright as you can. If you have a sunlight simulator, perfect, use that while the sun's not up. But once the sun comes up on its lowest solar angle, make sure you go get your sunlight. And make sure you get your temperature up as soon as possible. If that's going for a cold shower in the morning, only has to be 1 to 3 minutes. Any more than that is too much. Or you can just do some exercise. Doesn't have to be full blown. You still need to get your workout at least 5 times a week because that's so extremely healthy. But make sure you get your temperature up. That's a lot of jumping jacks. If you're doing skip rope, if you want to just go on your walk in the morning while you get some sunlight and delay your caffeine intake. You don't need to be spending $10,000 on a biohacking setup. You don't need to be taking 37 supplements. And you don't need a 3-hour routine. You can get this all done in 90 minutes easily. Plus having some breakfast and having a good morning, having a read and getting ready for your day. I'm a big believer, instead of taking medications or biohacking your way into health, first start with your behavior. Start with the fundamentals, because maybe you don't need to be spending all this money to do stuff when you just need to be changing your behavior. It's not hard to do, and it will increase your life, energy, your sleep. It will lower your risk of all-cause mortalities. Just doing so many behavior changes that will positively impact you. I will say something that we'll be adding to the podcast is we're going to be doing 3 to 5 questions depending how many comments we get at the end. So we're going to be doing a segment where I'm going to be answering your questions, but to be able to ask the questions on Substack, I have a paid on Substack. That's where I also post some notes. That's where I post my podcasts as well. I release weekly articles that are paid. And in the comments section of that, that's where you can ask the questions, and I will be picking 3 to 5 questions at random that I'll be answering at the end of the next podcast. I don't know if it'll be starting at the next podcast. Depends how many questions I get. It could be health related. It could just be a random life question. It could be anything. Make sure you check out this. The paid article came out today, and my weekly newsletter actually released yesterday. Make sure you follow the Spotify, follow the YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. I appreciate you all. If you have any questions about morning routines or anything personalized to you, drop it down in the comments and I will be answering.